Insert and okay, good morning everybody, and then we'll start with the insert. 그냥 얘기들 통달다. 쇼. 얘기 차담 날로 해. 쇼. So then when you are wearing this one, you have it like this. You have this one under here, not like that. This one, the right one goes under. This is already on the shoulder. See? You're doing the other way. You already have one on your left shoulder down. Yes. And the one that you bring from your right, you throw on your left shoulder. Throw that on your left shoulder. Good. That's right. And then the one that was from the left, you have it on your knees, spread on your knees like that. Okay. Insert, and then disturbing the sleep of ignorance. Library in the click bash. Bombe tadayata, bombe. Okay. So visualize that Guru Rinpoche along with the Dakas and Dakinis rise up in the air, and then they're playing beautiful Damaru and bells in their hands, and then you rise to this wonderful, inspiring environment. We're on the insert page 1, disturbing the sleep of ignorance. Kemai kehui kalde riki bo mare temo wange mane hempar. Zindu ngarke tatae yarlong dain tome dene dalae toke. Mare wange nil de choy ge dane manel gosum gelai. Kigai noche dunga mishe samderen zamyan tomben kokam. Julai tsendui keben de laen baen dare jebun dende Nyom lai ngang la hen de ben de ma yin chi wai som la drum pai ta ru kya. Tsen lai long me chi gen sam me cha hen de tse me tsere den je ma ton la. Ke bui kene sem be je je rong chen nam da me tong jen chen da. Chumai Miju Milam Zunin Lan Jize Donkere Dacha Taburu. Chundai Chuburu Migyuru Jumbai Soy Sheja Jume Pechu Dejindu. Konde Chenam Kegi Shembaragi Chenam Rajin Kewa Mepate. Nime game doy me pa u mi me tsema me chen samje den de tom para jawe de la ba namo guru me namo dewa me namo da ki be. O alas, alas, fortunate child of Buddha nature, do not be oppressed by the forces of ignorance and delusion, but rise up now with resolve and courage. Entranced by ignorance from beginningless time until now, you have had more than enough time to sleep. So do not slumber any longer, but strive after virtue with body, speech, and mind. Are you oblivious to the suffering of birth, old age, sickness, and death? There is no guarantee that you'll survive even past this very day. The time has come for you to develop perseverance in your practice. For at this singular opportunity, you could attain the everlasting bliss of awakening. So now is certainly not the time to sit idly. But starting with the reflection on death, you should bring your practice to completion. The moments of our life are not expendable, and the possible circumstances of death are beyond imagination. If you do not achieve an undaunted confident security now, what point is there in your being alive or fortunate being? All phenomena are ultimately selfless, empty, and free from conceptual elaboration. In their dynamic, they resemble an illusion, mirage, dream, or reflected image. A celestial city, an echo, a reflection of the moon in water, a bubble, an optical illusion, or an intangible emanation. You should know that all things of cyclic existence and nirvana accord in nature with these 10 similes of illusory phenomena. All phenomena are naturally unborn. They neither abide nor cease, neither come nor go. They are without objective referent, characteristicsless, ineffable, and free from thought. The time has come for these truths to be realized. Namo Guru Be, Namo Dewa Be, Namo Taki Be. Amesh to the Lama, Amesh to the Idam, Amesh to the Dakini. So make sure, first of all, you sit in a nice, relaxed posture. Whether you want to sit in the full Vajra posture or the lotus posture, whichever is easy. Longchen. So now I'm blessing the speech. So when you're doing the breathing, you can do this one, and then with both. Or you can do like we did, just from the right, left, and then again right, left, right, left. And then the seventh time you do from both your nostrils, like that. Eighth again, ninth, like that. So either of those is fine. Main thing is visualize that the central channel is in the when you're breathing in through your left, the left channel is inserted in your right. When you're breathing in through from your right, you breathe in and it's inserted in your right, and then you breathe out. When you're breathing in through both, then the center channel, which the left on the side two channels are extended a little bit longer, so they just go right inside the center channel like that. Then as you breathe out, so the winds enter into your center channel and you breathe out from here. Now, when draw text, page 3, blessing speech. Om Jiwam Rami Lejoy Mesene Maranambe Dorje Zesombo Ali Kale Taboro Tendreni Mute Tenwan Tambu Yigdrule Tenge Wai Seche Chepene Larding Agrev Dane Sondoroje Chen Laing Edru Tamje Tom Barajul. Om Mahu, fire rising from a rum syllable consumes my tongue, transforming it into a three-pronged Vajra red light. In its center are the vowels and consonants surrounded by the mantra, the essence of interdependent origination. From these syllables, like a string of pearls, light rays stream out, making offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, pleasing them. As these rays return, all obscurations of my speech are purified, and I receive all the blessings and siddhis of Vajra speech. A I I U R R L L E I O O Ang Ha Ka 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 Nga Cha 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 Ja Na Da 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 Na Da 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 Pa 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 Ma Ya Ra La Va Sha Sa Sa Ha Cha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetun Te Shantata Gato Haya Vadata Te Shanchayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Maha Shramana Swaha A I U Ka Ka Ga Ga Nga Ja 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 Na Da 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 Na Da 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 Na Pa 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 Ma Ya Ra La Va Sha Sa Sa Ha Cha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetun Te Shantata Gato Haya Vadata Te Shanchayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashramana Swaha A I U R R L I O Ka Ka Ga Ga Nga Ja 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 Na Da 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 Na Da 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 Na Ba 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 Ma Ya Ra La Va Sha Sa Sa Ha Cha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetun Te Shantata Gato Haya Vadata Te Shanchayo Nirodha Evam Vadi Mahashramana Swaha A I U R R L L I O Awanga Ha Ka Ka Ga Ga Nga Ja 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 Na Da 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 Na Da 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 Na Papa Baba Mayara Lawa Shasa Saha Sha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetunte Shantata Kato Hayavadata Teshancha Yo Niroda Evam Vadi Mahashramana Swaha A A E E U U Re Re Ni Ni E I O A Maha Kaka Kaganga Cha 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 Na Ta 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 Na Ta 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 Na Papa Baba Ma Yara Lawa Shasa Saha Shaom Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetunte Shantata Gato Hayavadata Teshan Chayo Niroda Evam Vadi Mahashramana Swaha A A I I U Re 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 E I O Maha Kaka Kaka Cha 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 Na Ta 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 Na Tata Dhadana Baba Baba Mayara Lawa Shasa Saha Sha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetunde Shantata Gato Hayavadata Teshanchayo Niroda Evam Vadi Mahashramana Swaha A I I U U Re Re Li Li E I O Angaha Kaka Ganga Cha 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 Na Da 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 Na Da 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 Na Baba Baba Mayara Lawa Shasa Saha Sha Om Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetunde Shantata Gato Hayavadata Teshanchayo Niroda Evam Vadi Mahashramana Soha. Like that. Then now bring in your intention of practicing the Dharma. We aim toward all sentient beings, dispelling the suffering of sentient beings through great compassion and establishing all motherly sentient beings to the state of perfect and complete Buddhahood aimed through wisdom. To do so, then we invoke the blessings of our Lama, calling from our page 13. Lama ke Lama Niwen de pa gesar she pa ne chang che den chen la ma yar la jing le dan yan o da be zir wa yi wa ngen pa dan la cho be chen Chiworo de che korloe jendo jo jenda shi je koncha chen so se O Lama, please think of me. O Lama, please think of me. O Lama, please think of me. From the blossoming lotus of devotion at the center of my heart, arise, O kind Lama, my only refuge, in order to protect me, the miserable unfortunate one, who is overwhelmingly tormented by karma and mental afflictions. I pray that you remain as the jewel ornament on the crown chakra of great bliss, arousing all of my mindfulness and awareness. Zum zange tam jege ngo kuje dane pande lama tambala sewa de so tala wanguru jenge lapto se sablam ge to bai ke barachen Julai ke wara jenge lapto se kadai ne lo ke tawa tombar jenge lapto se Hundu nanje yeshe tarchimbara jenge laptos. I fervently supplicate to the glorious sacred Lama, the essence of all of the Buddhas of the three times, the embodiment of the four kayas. I pray that you grant me blessings and empowerments. I pray that you bless me so that the extraordinary realization of the profound path arises in me. I pray that you bless me to realize the view of the primordial purity of the abiding nature. I pray that you bless me to perfect the wisdom of the four visions of spontaneous presence. I fervently supplicate to the glorious sacred Lama, the essence of all of the Buddhas of the three times, the embodiment of the four kayas. I pray that you grant me blessings and empowerments. I pray that you bless me so that the extraordinary realization of the profound path arises in me. I pray that you bless me to realize the view of the primordial purity of the abiding nature. I pray that you bless me to perfect the wisdom of the four visions of spontaneous presence. Okay. Now, page 17. The ring and why in the end draw down, Seren Radan La Lo Lo Dajen,
Sangye Majen Shingdang Kong Pai Te Mikom Gelle Tarwe Dalwato Mejuro Wambo Zangdang Yulu Ke Le Tai Malo Tenlai De Pante Rani Jorwai Nga Tsang Sangye Jin Che Song Tenbai Nedang De Lai Shenen dambe zindan shenjoro ngai tamche ranglai tsangwe ne toj. Ken mai nge bai me be tsepan ne jiten pare ne du sembaraj. Lona chelai jurchen guru ken lamge membara matong kun kench. Nisu medo jinchen lama ken dare delten denye majena. Chine tarbe dubla temihine deje tenla senam zejurune. Shive woktu ingen so ingen doro cham gede meshe cheke dramete. Kewe shedan meje sangre che semjen samge jangdan semprimbala. Samnai milu tobai sitai zam miyan che me dingla che tong. Chejin chebai nimu karmai tsam lonai chelai jurche guru ke lamge membara mandoi gungen je nisui medo jinchen lamai ke kalte mille rinchen lingchen yang luten sangla jurpo cheyes tarba drube dendoi miroje ke bara duke zindan dunga Lingen toto babdan lele yang shenke zhenyo jikcho chetarach. Monso chiljoin kenge me komge dalai cheke engal daral habet. Lona chelai jurje guru ken lamge membara manton kungenje. Nisu mendo jinchen lama kai choshe chonshen tepe nodan. Dese jambe jingdan kunje soi mige de lai mizim letano. Tomba nyamshin damse ranwai de reche loye mikom nambaike. Dalai chege galdaran habeze lonai chelai jurche guruke. Lamge membara madon kunkenje nisui medo jinchen lamake. Tata nedan dungai gimai zin jenke la soi shenwai majurope. Rangwan tobe jinja jigdi dire nyomle ngandu del joro chesena. Kordan longche nedu drewa tai tachi chebar zungwe lude. Melge nane sacho tong paraikel wadan jage ki enjepe. Bardo yulna jikpa shindu che lona chenla jurche guru ken lamge membara madon gungen je nisu medo jinchen lama ken gedin leke namin chejen dain ke barenge we jikden nisen chakse sajre tsengi golun shole chodan tsulum barwe Kome chakim tum barawe dembe barawe tsel kebo chochuruchi. Kone tsawe mese getsenchi gangre tokbo dabdan chuchangi changrong yangay nesu buyut. Changre lungi tabe langso ni chuburo chendang habara dolwaj. Menga junmi chebara demba yang tsorwe dunga nakpara kawai. Sungye rabdan chike ne baishin, shurin denjen sotam bakbage. Shawu tenne labarage denge, dejen pudre tangla kangpasho. Ralde tseldo lulai chedo je, ronya damse talse ramen. Narwe ne koro wadan jurwai jen, godan kawa tabdan takpaso. Tatu kojin chebe ne tse wan, namdang chobge gangle jungwe. Shetan drabu kunlong gebe tse, lona chelai jurche guru. Lamge membara maton kun kenje niso mendo jinchen lamake. Dejen pon la nyame gawe yun saton longche mi amedra. Se kom lo dara mine yeda lu rechen dangwe top nyam nambas. Kan le jungwe junne sena ye chik lai chik za se bai chik bai chik. Kujin chik pe nyam ta lang doro mo pa tai me pe dung e gizere. Saben timu mumbara cha bai da lo na che lai jur che guru. Lamge membara ma don kun genje nisu me do jin chen la ma. Chen la jo chai ne che me dom je tek jen go jo shen ben sem dan. Wan je top chan ke zo mi gom be lam ge dil le la me jen dos. Tawa ma to to che che bai chen gom bai yang chang go yo wo go ta. Cheba nur chan rangen mi sembe che jen dil le la me jen dos. Nang para chi yan ne ge nor la se na tse yo nyang ye jung cho she. Teba chung yang yen den jin do long ma re de le la me jel dos. Ken kara chor yang du zi ne koro sem wen bai ten chan rang ju shing tar re. Dulwaram ra yang cha dan ma je pe che ge de le la me jel dos. Nito de le nyur do se do se. Chimen de le nyur do yong do se. Kunjo sumye deshe tsawa sum tsalun tingle ranjen jancho sen. Muho ranjen tuje kyang korola jancho nyingbo bando janson che. Kunjo sumye deshe tsawa sum tsalun tingle ranjen jancho sen. Muwo rangjen tuje kyang koran la chanchu nimbo bando chanson che kunjo sumye deshe tsawan sum salon tenle rangjen chanchu sim Muwo rangjen tuje kyang koran la chanchu nimbo bando chanson che. In the actual three jewels, the three root sugatas, in bodhicitta, the nature of channel, wind, and essence, and in the mandala of essence, nature, and compassion, I take refuge until attaining the heart of Buddhahood. In the actual three jewels, the three root sugatas, in bodhicitta, the nature of channel, wind, and essence, and in the mandala of essence, nature, and compassion, I take refuge until attaining the heart of Buddhahood. In the actual three jewels, the three root sugatas, in bodhicitta, the nature of channel, wind, and essence, and in the mandala of essence, nature, and compassion, I take refuge until attaining the heart of Buddhahood. Bodhicitta, page 39. O nazo nangwai chende zinre ki korwai logo jodo chambe ro. Rangri vese yin so ngam tse cher. Seme je ye ngane semke do. O nazo nangwai chende zinre ki korwai logo jodo chambe ro. Rangre se yin so ngel se cher se me je ye ngane sem ge do na so na wa chun de zin re ke kor wa lu go ju do cham be do rang re se yin so yin se che che me ji yin on ne sim ge do. Oh, the mesmerizing display of mirrored appearances, like a mirage of the moon in water, beings grasping it as real wander continuously in samsara. To bring them to rest in the space of luminous intrinsic awareness, I generate bodhicitta through the four immeasurables. Oh, the mesmerizing display of mirrored appearances, like a mirage of the moon in water, beings grasping it as real wander continuously in samsara. To bring them to rest in the space of luminous intrinsic awareness, I generate bodhicitta through the four immeasurables. Oh, the mesmerizing display of mirrored appearances, like a mirage of the moon in water, beings grasping it as real wander continuously in samsara. To bring them to rest in the space of luminous intrinsic awareness, I generate bodhicitta through the four immeasurables. Then finally dissolve all concept of subject, object, and action. And then rest in that gate, non-duality, rest in that state of non-duality. Here on page 40, it says, finally I and all sentient beings dissolve together into the assembled object of refuge. They dissolve into the Lama in the center, and then the Lama too dissolves into primordial basic space, the Dharmakaya, which is free from all extremes of elaboration. It's the same thing. Oh, Vajra Sattva. Dani Tame Chipo Rom Penkara Dawe Dengewe Hongre Lama Endorje Sem Karse Longchen Zompenko Dorje Dezen Mai Che Kelai Chanse Dikpai Chesen Rambe Toloi Shai Chenche Sola Babchando Ketun Dawai Gibe De Hongye Tamara Ngake Kor Tebe Ngage Utrepe Igawa Yavyum Derul Jorsamne Dutsi Jancho Simge Tene Kaparo Dultara Zampaye Tandan Kamzon Simjenge Ledain Nemo Dungajo Eden Digre Netonje Male Janwara Zendo Banzara Sando Samaya Mano Balaya Banzas Tirzandirda Mebawa Sudo Kayam Mebawa Subo Kayam Mebawa Nurata Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Mepraya Sarva Karma Sutta Metsitam Shriam Guru Hum Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Benzer Mame Munzam Benzer Bhava Maha Samaya Santo Ahom Banzara Santo Samaya Mano Balaya Benzer Satvate Tishtandirda Mebawa Sudo Kayam Mebawa Subo Kayam Mebawa Anurata Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Mepraya Sarva Karma Sutta Metsitam Shriam Guru Ahom Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Benzer Mame Munzam Benzer Bhava Maha Samaya Santo Om Banjara Sato Samaya Mano Balaya Benza Sato Teno Pater Sander do Mebawa Sando Kaya Mebawa Subo Kaya Mebawa Anurado Mebawa Sarva Siddhi Mebraya Sarva Karma Sutta Metsitam Shriam Guru Hum Ha 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 Om Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Benzer Mame Munza Benzer Bhava Maha Samaya Santo Page 47 Gombo dane meshe mongba ye damse lene kaljen lama gyembe chamse che so dorje zembat tuje chembe dane chen do zonlai tapchan ku son to zawa dan yen lai ge damse nyamba tamchen tolo shas Dikwa dan driba ne don drime so tam jen jang jen dang bara jen dos. Page 47. O protector, in my ignorance and delusion, I have gone against and impaired my samayas. Lama protector, be my refuge. Chief of all the mandalas, Vajra holder, embodiment of great compassion. Chief of all beings, in you I take refuge. I confess all broken root and branch samayas of body, speech, and mind. I pray that you cleanse and purify all my accumulated negativities, obscurations, faults, downfalls, and defilements. Page 50. Dorje sembai gejen zumba dan chimbe rige boy kege bigre neton tamchen tapa ye no chen na wai jin shin ye du june rang lai timbe kenle rang ne chang dorje semba nang don me loy nang ge sunen taburo jurbe tokso hongge tamar Yege dru shepo selwa le yuzere tempe. Kamzun ne ju dan cheba dorsem ringe tendan tempe ranjendo sange para juru. Page 50. Vajrasattva is pleased and smilingly says, Noble child, all of your negative actions, obscurations, faults, and downfalls are purified. Granting his approval, he melts into light, and by dissolving into me, I become Vajrasattva, appearing yet empty, like a reflection in a mirror. At my heart is the syllable Hum, around which the four brilliantly radiant syllables emanate rays of light, whereby the three worlds, the whole universe, and the beings within it attain Buddhahood together as the Buddha feels and the Buddhas of the five families of Vajrasattva. Om Vajrasattva, 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 Om Vajrasattva,
Finally, Vajrasattva dissolves into the syllables, and the syllables dissolve tracelessly into basic space, and then you rest in that space for a while. Mandala offering.
Tongsun Jiten Jewan Chanje Shin Rinchen Naden Lame Jurbe Tam Tale Longche Chenpa Yongbul Ge Cheke Kurlo Jurwe Sinto Shon Omen Chinde Chen Tobu Kebe Shin Nge Pai Ngaden Ringe Tsambo Chen Deyen Chebe Chenpon Samye Pai Pilwe Longku Shen Lai Chen Parasho Nangse namda chanu bumbe ku tuje maga chene rebege kudan tille zimbai namda jin pwe chegu shinglai jembarai sho Saji peju jujin mendo chamri rai lingje ninde gembade Sangye shingdu mikde pulwa yin chokwen namda shinglai jembarasho Taram Guru Ratna Mandala Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Page 59. Pelu Chezin Burwe Lhandi Chom Sem Sambe Gone Yung Loyan Chindagen du jom tre marayin juro yene moen du jom tre goge. Supongbo du jom te bayin tre yen lejen salge tem bandato. Kusumge me go ge boron shai, nang tong sum gangwe bamro te. Atong dang hang ye du zire ju ju sumge nube jang bel juro. Yarcheye denge tudam kan sozon ne choten drunche. Markorova jenne lenchain join ke baradu ne je gegrensen. Ne dendam barche yang su je gengen dan dansen do do no. Tarche jadan che ye malu kun shi zobai chen boro ma che. Guru Yoga, page 65. Emma Rana Lundun Dambai Rabjan Jige Bai Rabzoi Zando Barre Rane Jizin Dorje Naljora Mai Jelche Chani Marse Jite Shamne Dortai Chenso Nam Karaze Cheuroi Pema Bumdal Ninde Shamne Kundu Zawe Lama Da Yerme Soke Dorje Trube Karmara Dande Shunu Shatso Chen Pekai Chege Zabere Dongma Shalje Chani Gembo Rolbe Dai Chaye Dorje Yembe Tebo Ulai Dabde Peme Nenjo Se Chen Koye Na Hede Ton Yucho Bebe Tsunge Katam Zesum Nam Jazere Tingle Wepon Lona Chigo Yinge Dawe Zebe Loen Jube Jeba Nishu Zanga Jabe Benro Rize Yedam Lai Kandro Chejon Dam Chen Tinta Seldon Yamne Chemboe Ngando page 65. Emaho, my own perception is the spontaneously perfect, all-encompassing pure Ram, arrayed perfectly as the glorious copper-colored mountain. In its center, I am Vajra Yogini with one face and two hands, brilliantly red and holding a hook knife and skull carp. My 2 feet are in advancing pose, my 3 eyes gazing into the sky. Above the crown of my head on 100,000 petal lotus, the sun and moon dissate. Inseparable from my own root Lama, the embodiment of all sources of refuge, appears the Nirmana Kaya lake-bound Vajra. His body glows with youth, with white with a tinge of red. He wears a gown, monastic shawl, cloak, and robe, with one face, 2 hands, and seated in a majestic posture. In his right hand he holds a vajra, in his left a skull cup containing the vase of immortality. On his head he wears the 5-petaled lotus crown. In the crook of his left elbow he holds the supreme consort of bliss and emptiness. Concealed as a 3-pronged khatvanga, he presides amidst the shimmering aura of rays and rings of rainbow light. All around him enveloped in a beautiful lattice of white, blue, yellow, red, and green light are the 25 disciples, king and subjects, Panditas and Siddhas of India and Tibet, Rigzins and Idam deities, Takinis, Dharmapalas, and protectors, those who keep the Samaya, all gathered like billowing clouds, vividly and distinctly visualized in the great equanimity of clarity and emptiness. Ogen yugen objan tsam pema gesan tumbala. Yazen chogen odrum ne pema june shesun. Kondo kandro mambe kor kege jesun tan drumche jinge lopche shekso se. Guru pema sinde hong yuge no jang sam pema gesan tumbala. Yazen chogen odrum ne pema june shesun. Kondo kandro mambe kor kege jesun tan drumche Jinge lopchen shekso se guru pema sinde hong ugen yuge nobjan tsam pema gesar dongpola yazen chogen odrum ne pema june shesodra kondo kandro mambe kor kege jeso da druchi Jinge lopchen shekso se Guru Pema Sinde Sasum Yasim. Page 71. Dale Jinge Dulne Du Number Trumbe Chance Loi Nishan Yedre Dingzen Te Lanse Chebe Chanjalai Gozon Miguel Nam Gu Se Che Gu Ngondo Sha Denba Nige Denba Ye Ge So Kon Lai Je Ye Ran Rikshen Sumge Dulja La Tek Sum Che Koro Korwara Kur Jisen Korwa Mandum Baranyanye Medai Shosunde Dagi Desum Sambe Gesa Kun Janchu Chenbo Juru. Page 71. Free, equal to the number of atoms in the universe. I multiply my body and offer prostrations. Through the power of Samadhi, both real offerings and those mentally emanated, all appearances and possibilities are presented as a gesture offering. All non-virtuous karma of my body, speech, and mind are confessed in the luminous state of the Dharmakaya. I rejoice in the accumulation of all virtue contained within the true truth. For the three types of beings to be tamed, I request you to turn the wheel of Dharma of the three yanas. Until samsara is emptied, I pray that you remain without passing into nirvana. All the roots of virtue accumulated in the three times, I dedicate as the cause for attaining supreme Buddhahood. Page 74. Jezen Guru Rimbo Chen Kene Sangye Tamje Gen Tuje Jenlai Dube Be Semje Yongge Gonje Le Dan Longchen Lone Dran Te Ba Me Barai Ken Lai Dene Janjo Matom Ba Kido Lene Tome Jezen Chenboy Pe Jong Page 75, second line. Tala resa shinai men da de dunge ni men ro mize dunge damdu jin de le chawshe maha guru wanje kurje jenla che tomba porje toje che jimne jongshin nu te. Back to page 74. O Guru Rinpoche, precious Lama, you are the glorious embodiment of the compassion and blessings of all the Buddhas, the only protector of sentient beings. My body, wealth, lungs, heart, and chest, I offer to you without hesitation. From now until I attain Buddhahood, in happiness or sorrow, in circumstances good or bad, in situations high or low, great precious Lama, lotus born, think of me. I have no one else to turn to. The beings of these degenerate times are sinking in the swamp of unbearable suffering. Protect us from all of these, O great Guru. Grant us the four empowerments, O Blessed One. Deepen our realization, O Compassionate One. Purify the true obscurations, O Powerful One. Om Mahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Om Mahum Benza Guru Pema Om Mahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Om Mahum Benza Om Mahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi Om Mahum Benza Om Mahum Benza Guru Pema Siddhi 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 Om Mahum Benza Om Mahum Benza Om Mahum Page 77. Emma Jaje Cholon Dreve Shingam Ne Tambo Sange Cheko Kondosa Longu Chunde Ronzen Dorje Sen Chukro Cenzo Garam Dorje La Sewa Devso Jinlai Wanguro Tse Shere Singhai Dendam Cheke Tse Chambe Shenen Tegu Korle Juru Jana Sutra Tem Chenbe Mala Sewa Devso Dorje Lamna Ten Zambu Lingi Jenche Pemaju Nye para tuke se cho je bangro to dren janso dandro longchen kandro yinze kaba jingme ling sewa depso jebo tomdro chinle uze gewe nyugo dang patro kenze natso randro cheke lodre kenze wezere dang kajen dame tsawe lama Sewa depso nelo ranjo ten sele nge para jongwe shen loke. Torje lama dende mikshin ten jison kadru zame nyamlen. Temchay mebe drupsu shirin ke toju gombe jenla powarash. Nansi korde yene omi shen langa che koro dazo mebe. Pangla jadze mebe zomba che shena yeche le de rikpeda. Chene ngonson jembara tongwara shoy zeme toba namro jazre. Kudan tile nyamna gondu pe rekse longko shenkam tsela pe. Cheze lode chemboro sange te shunu bungoro tense zembarash. Shinto Neljoro Nyamo Matsunde Rale Dame Yingsu Madron Namje Tseye Doje Tungwe Tse Chewa Yese Kada Che Korosh Pardo Nancha Longche Zokoro Drur Cheche Tege Nyamlen Tsezon Maban Buju Tabur Drover Sho Sanche Yese Tegba Choge Sangye shene mese chekwe shen, wanjuru deme sala madrun. Magum sangye chenge lamcho la he, tene ranjen trube shingada. Kepara pema uke podrandu, rezen jansu tsosho ugenji. Sanchen chege gaten gebe sara, sege toro kene uyung. Tayen druwe nelsoro danjuru sho, rizen gewai janso jenlam. Cheyin sami chabe denpa yen, deljuro denla zome jansum. Dendre ngonjuro sange tom para sho. Guru minsamne omi shusha tambaro tsarwa le vezare rangi jiwo ne shu. Luke le dan tsayen drimba handa ku dorje jenla shu. Gumbe wan toy kerim ge ne do juro name rizin ge sawente. Trugo gopan tobe kelwa juna jan. From the letter Om, radiant like a crystal at the Lama's forehead, rays of light stream forth and enter my forehead, purifying negative actions of the body and obscurations of the channels. The blessing of Vajra body is infused. The vase empowerment is received, and I become a receptive vessel for the generation stage. The seed of the completely matured Rigzin is sown, and the fortune to attain the state of Nirvana Kaya is established within my mind. Jimbai ne aye pemai ragan taram barwa le vezrete rangi jimbai ne shu mage le dan lunge jimbai ta sun dorje jinlai shu sanwe wang to Dejegi Nendu Juru Tewa Rizenge Savente Longche Zogu Gopange Kawa Jula 85. From the letter Ra, blazing like a ruby at the Lama's throat, rays of light stream forth and enter my throat, purifying negative actions of the speech and obscurations of the inner wind. The blessing of Vajra speech is infused. The secret empowerment is received, and I become a receptive vessel for the practice of mantra recitation. The seed of the Rixin with power over life is sown, and the fortune to attain the state of Sambhogakaya is established within my mind. Tuke Hongye Namke Dochen Le Vezerete Rangi Ningai Neju Ike Le Dai Ting Le Jibai Dai Tun Dorje Jelai Jo Chera Yeshe Ge Wan Top Teton Zenda Le Nendo Juro Chaja Rexen Ge Savente Chegu Gopange Kawa Jula Sha. From the sky-colored letter hung at the Lama's heart, rays of light stream forth and enter my heart, purifying negative actions of the mind and obscurations of the essence. The blessing of Vajra mind is infused, the wisdom empowerment is received, and I become a receptive vessel for the Zendali practice of bliss and emptiness. The seed of the Mahamudra Rigzin is sown, and the fortune to attain the state of Dharmakaya is established within my mind. Larayan tuke hongle hongye nipaje kardai pangbai shindo che. Rangsem dan tade me baraje kunje le dan sheje driba jang. Yishen dorje jinlai jo tsige tsembai dendam ge wang to. Kada zoba chembe nendo jor hando rezen ge savente. Tartoge jebu mo niku kopange kawa jula sha. Once more from the letter hung at the Lama's heart, a second hung streaks out like a shooting star, merging inseparably with my mind, purifying the karma of the all-ground and conceptual obscurations. The blessing of Vajra wisdom is infused. The ultimate symbolizing word empowerment is received, and I become a receptive vessel for the Zoba Chemba of original purity. The seed of the spontaneously accomplished Rigzin is sown, and the fortune to attain the state of Samabhavika Kaya, the final fruition is established within my mind. Okay, now back to the mind training. Now insert for the mind training. Okay, again. Sit in the posture of your body and speech. So in the teachings, it's mentioned like the three postures of body, speech, and mind. So when you're doing like different sessions, you have to refresh your, again, doing this, expelling the stale breath and so forth. During that time, you don't have to do the Lama calling from afar or those, just the breathing too. You don't need to elaborate the breathing, just sit like that, and then you can just go breathe in, then breathe up, like that. Don't like that, because
After some time you feel a little bit drowsy and so forth. So you need to freshen up.
Okay, page 5. Som sangye tam jege ngu kuje danne palden lama tamba la sewa de so tala wanguru jenge lapto se sablamge topai ke barajen julai ke wara jenge lapto se kada nilu ke tawa to bara jenge lapto se Tundru naje yeshe tarjem bara jenge lapto se Deljurgi mille rimboche de ne barakawa ton bara jenge lantos. I fervently supplicate to the glorious sacred Lama, the essence of all of the Buddhas of the three times, the embodiment of the four kayas. I pray that you grant me blessings and empowerments. I pray that you bless me so that the extraordinary realization of the profound path arises in me. I pray that you bless me to realize the view of the primordial purity of the abiding nature. I pray that you bless me to perfect the wisdom of the four visions of spontaneous presence. I pray that you bless me to realize how difficult it is to attain this precious human body. I fervently supplicate to the glorious sacred Lama, the essence of the Buddhas of the three times, the embodiment of the four kayas. I pray that you grant me blessings and empowerments. I pray that you bless me so that the extraordinary realization of profound path arises in me. I pray that you bless me to realize the view of the primordial purity of the abiding nature. I pray that you bless me to perfect the wisdom of the four visions of spontaneous presence. I pray that you bless me to realize how difficult it is to attain this precious human body. So earlier I was doing this, and so forth. You don't have to do like me. You might think there's a story about these two little children of our Dhamma brothers. Their uncle was teaching them to do meditation, like when you do puja, when you do offerings to the Buddha, you bring your hands here and you recite the verse of the praise or the prayers offerings, and then after that, they kind of the mother noticed that after finishing the prayer, they were shaking the hands like this, bringing resting here. They found out that their uncle had some diabetic problem, so his hand was shaking like that. So the children thought you have to do like that. They thought, when you rest your hands, you shake your hands and you bring down. So don't practice those. I was just loosening up my muscles. So, okay, page 6. Sorry, here you are doing the reading. So let's do the analytical and the placement meditation. Any freedom seminar.
Okay. On page 47. Okay, now prayers of sublime aspiration, page 7 in the insert. Seven. Dawai Topchan Ningbo Cheki Wu Che Guru Jokchan Che Me Che Pe Yen Dan 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 Dra Mombe Sim Che Nam Tel Juro Ningbo Lembara Jenge Lo. Back to page 7. Although I've owned these freedoms, I am poor in dharma, which is their essence. Although I've entered the dharma, I am distracted doing other things. Bless me and all those foolish beings like me, that we may attain the very essence of the freedoms and advantages. Okay, now the accumulation of refuge. Lama la chamsun chi wu, sangye la chamsun chi wu, che la chamsun chi wu, gende la chamsun chi. Lama la chamsun chi wu, sangye la chamsun chi wu, che la chamsun chi wu, gende la chamsun chi wu, lama la chamsun chi wu, sangye la chamsun chi wu. Chen la chap sun chi won gen den la chap sun chi won la ma la chap sun chi won sang gen la chap sun chi won chen la chap sun la ma la chap sun chi won sang gen la chap sun chi won chen la chap sun chi won gen den la chap sun chi won la ma la chap sun chi won sang gen la chap sun chi won chen la chap sun chi won gen den la chap sun chi won la ma la chap sun chi won chen la chap sun chi won gen den la chap sun chi won la ma la chap sun chi won sang gen la chap sun chi won chen la chap sun chi won gen den la chap sun chi won la ma la chap sun chi won sang gen la chap sun chi won chen la chap sun chi won gen den la chap sun chi won Lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won sang la chap sa chu won chen la chap sa chu won gen da la chap sa chu won lama la chap sa chu won Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph 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 Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph and 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 Joseph Lamal Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph and 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 Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger Chana Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Sanger 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 Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal Joseph Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph and Joseph Lamal 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 Joseph Sanger Joseph Chana Joseph
Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa 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 Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa 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 Chala Jasa Gindal Jasa Lam Jasa
Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as Long just as challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as Long just as long as the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge of the long just as long as the challenge of the challenge
Challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge. Challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something. Challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, challenge something in the just alone just a song. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song. Just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone just a song, just a challenge something in the just alone. Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama 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 Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama 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 Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama 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 Jasa Sang Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa 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 Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama 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 Jasa Sang Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa 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 Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Chala 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 Jasa Lama Jasa Sang Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang 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 Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa 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 Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa 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 Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina 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 Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang 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 Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Gina Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Jasa Chala Jasa Lam Jasa Sang Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Sanjaza Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala 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 Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza 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 Sanjaza Chala Junding Chala Junding in the Jaza Lamajaza Sanjaza 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 Chala Junding Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Sanjaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Sanjaza Lamajaza Sanjaza Chala Junding in the Jaza 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 Lamajaza Lama jabsa jo sangla jabsa jo chen la jabsa jo gen la jabsa jo lama la jabsa jo sangla jabsa chen la jabsa jo gen la jabsa jo lama la jabsa jo sangla jabsa jo chen la jabsa jo gen la jabsa jo. Refuge in the Nindro text, page 37. 37, Nindro text. Page 37. Kunjo sumgen deche tsawan sum tsalon tegle ranjen chancho sem. Mo ranjen tuje kyo korona. Chancho nimbo bando chanson che. Kunjo sumgen deche tsawan sum tsalon tegle ranjen chancho sem. Mo ranjen tuje kyo korona. Changchun Nipo Bandu Changsun Chi Kunjo Sumye Deshe Tsawan Sum Tsalung Tegle Ranjin Changchun Sem Ngowo Ranjin Tuje Kyung Parana Changchun Nipo Bandu Changsun Chi. In the actual three jewels, the three root sugatas in bodhicitta, the nature of channel, wind, and essence, and in the mandala of essence, nature, and compassion, I take refuge until attaining the heart of Buddhahood. In the actual three jewels, the three root sugatas in bodhicitta, the nature of channel, wind, and essence, and in the mandala of essence, nature, and compassion, I take refuge until attaining the heart of Buddhahood. In the actual three jewels, the three root sugatas, in bodhicitta, the nature of channel, wind, and essence, and in the mandala of essence, nature, and compassion, I take refuge until attaining the heart of Buddhahood. Back to the insert, dedication. Page 7. Gewan diye nirdo dai kenjo sombo drupjurane druwa chikchan male pa diye salai gembara sho. Through the merit of this practice, may I swiftly accomplish the three jewels and establish every sentient beings without exception on their level. Okay, now back to the conclusion in the Ngondro, page 89. Namje tsende duje tserana ngayai pereshe sonju trube shinkam su shilu dorje neljo selzere ke gongbo ro june jetsen pe jonda Erme Chemboro Sange De Dan Dombe Jotrorigi. Yeche Chemboro Bale Kamson Semje Malepa. Dembe Dembe Damba Ruchi Zembe Me Uyongsa. Selwai Ninge Kelne De Kazam Tsezam Mayeno. Chenlai Tuke Longne Zen Samden Drupara Zendu. Back to page 89. When my life is at its end, my perception, the glorious copper-colored mountain, the pure realm of Maya, indivisible from Nirmana Kaya's pure realm, and my body, Vajra Yogini, is transformed into a radiant, brilliant sphere of light. Merging inseparably with Jits and Pamajone, I attain Buddhahood. Then from the display of vast primordial wisdom, the miraculous manifestation of bliss and emptiness. For every single being in the three realms, let me appear as their supreme guide. Jitsen Pema, grant this, so I pray. I pray to you from the bottom of my heart. These are not just empty words. I pray that you grant your blessings from the expanse of your wisdom mind and cause all my aspirations to be fulfilled. Page 92. Lame tuga ne yazara marpo jetan jepa she walge chungwa dani dorje naljoro marasalve. Ninga rekpa tsamgi vimaragi gongbu shiktu june. Guru rumbu chen tu kara tembe yerme roche to. From the heart center of the Lama, a beam of light, red and warm, suddenly appears. And with myself visualized as Dorje Neljorma, it touches my heart and I'm instantaneously transformed into a sphere of red light, which dissolves into Guru Rinpoche's heart, and I become inseparable with him in one day. Alden Zobe Lama Rinpoche Dage Ningare Pime De Jula Kaden Chemboe Gune Jesun Te Kusun Tuke Ngedro Tsendos Alden Lame Nambara Tarbai Lai Keche Tsamyan Lo Tai Mikeji Chizen Le Para Tongwe Mege Ke Lame Jenla Semla Jumparasho Kewa Kundu Yangda Lama Dan Jalme Chege Pella Longche Sadan Lamge Yende Rabzonde Dorje Change Gopan Yoroto. And once again, bring in your mind, how did your session go? Then if you made any mistakes or that your mind was not focused and so forth, then confess and then purify, make firm decision, commitment that in your next session that you will try to do better. And then whatever you did excellent, be joyful about it, and then we dedicate the merit. Page 94. Chambam bawu jindara kemba endang kundu sambo deyang de jente. Dendai kunge jeso endang lo chenge wai dendai tamche rabdu. Desong chembe nge wai tamche nge wai gangla chotu. Dagi gewe tawai deken chan sampo cheche rabdu. Page 94. Just as the heroic Manjushri realized, and Samantabhadra too, I will train in their examples and perfectly dedicate all of these virtues. All of the conquerors of the three times in whichever way they supremely dedicate, I too will perfectly dedicate all my roots of virtue for the excellent conduct. Kandu gebe gewai tamjen don tore yenden dinden tamarsh. Keman tando chedan jujuru chen jube rawan yakash. Teriyama lama damba nije chen nendan zendo chela chemash. Chento nene ningpo dendro ten tsende sembe jansu gawash. Sempan tambe chenrai tenje chen shenpen rola chongen rebash. Labchen shende chore mepaye tamche chamche sangye tongkara sho. Page 95. In all of my lifetimes, wherever I'm born, may I obtain the 7 qualities of higher realms. Upon taking birth, may I immediately meet the Dharma and have the freedom to practice it perfectly. In that life, may I please the Sublime Lama and practice the Dharma day and night. Having realized the Dharma, may I accomplish the ultimate meaning of the essence. And may I cross over the ocean of worldly existence in this very life. May I thoroughly teach the sublime Dharma within the world, and never become disheartened or weary of accomplishing the benefit of others. Through working impartially for the vast benefit of others, may all beings attain Buddhahood together. Om Benza Guru Tema Sinde Om Benza Guru Tema Sinde Om Benza Guru Tema Sinde Om Benza Guru Tema Sinde. Okay, wonderful. Another day, a successful day of mind training. Okay. There's some questions sent on the email, and then I'll try to answer this. I say, this is from Stuart. It says, we are really enjoying the Longchen Nyingthig Monro practice and have done it every day. I did prostrations today with the 7-branch prayer in the terms of the following line, that the prayer for the 3 types of beings to be tamed, I request you to turn the wheel of Dharma. So he's asking, what are the 3 types of beings? It's referring to ordinary beings, because Buddha teaches to guide ordinary beings like humans and gods and so forth. So teachings about humanity, or just like the basic good and excellence of, so turning the will of, so ordinary, it's called ordinary vehicle, like ordinary vehicle, that means referring to the vehicle of human and gods, so that, because there is basic goodness in human and gods, that they develop kindness and virtue, positivity, and so forth. Thereby they accumulate good karma, good merit. And then because of that, they can further in their future lives, they can take higher birth and meet higher qualities of birth, like long life, we say,
the 7 qualities have birth in the Dedang Sultim Donglang Gongpa, faith, devotion, discipline, Sultim Donglang Gongpa, generosity, and then the discerning awareness of learning the teachings that they can liberate their own minds or their own being, and to have dignity, self-control, and knowledge. So these are the 7 qualities of higher birth. So Buddha teaches those common vehicle. And then the next kind are those of the lesser kinds, lesser beings. So those of the general Buddhist tradition, we would say like the Theravadin or the Hinayana, Shravakayana, the Pratyeka Buddhas, the Shravakas and the Pratyeka Buddhas, like that. And then the third kind of beings are the superior beings, so the Mahayana beings. So in the Mahayana beings, the Vajrayana beings and so forth are included there. So these consist of the 3 kinds of beings. The ordinary beings, the mediocre, meaning the medium, who are the beings fitting into the category of the Shravakayana, and then the superior being who fit into the category of the Mahayana. So those are the 3 types of beings. So you're requesting Buddha to turn the will according to their wishes and their capabilities. Another question, during the 4th empowerment, it says that a second hung shoots out. Can you let us know when the first hung shot out? In the 3rd empowerment, I am visualizing a blue light. Should it be a blue hung? Yes, so what is coming, there is white Om in Guru Rinpoche's crown. And then from there, not only just the light, but that indivisible from that one, Om comes, then Om enters into your forehead like that. Similarly like that from Guru Rinpoche's throat, the ruby red light comes out and then enters into your throat like that. And in that same way, from Guru Rinpoche's heart, blue hung, like the color of sky, comes out and then touches your heart like that. So this way, as we did like Om, Ah, Hung, there is the color, the vibration, the shape, like that. So here you don't have to elaborate the shape, it's just like a sphere of light coming and then heating. So you don't have to have too many concepts of how this is happening. So just visualize blue light coming or hung coming and entering into your heart. The language that we use here, it says the negative actions is referring to karma of your body. So we say negative actions of the body referring to karma of your body. And then the subtle aspects are the obscurations of the channel. And then when we say the negative actions of speech is referring to the karma of your speech. So all that we had accumulated through a harsh speech or lying, slander, and then useless chatter and so on and so forth. So that is purified. And then when we say the negative action of our mind is referring again to the karma of our mind. So this way, so there are so many things happening. So there's light coming out, strike into your body, similarly like that, sequentially light from your throat coming and hitting onto your throat like that. But then there's other level happening that when that light comes, then the blessings of Vajra body is infused, is the word here, meaning it enters. Juk is like that's entering or penetrating in our being. And then they, along with that one, then there is the empowerment. There's an empowerment related to that, like the vase empowerment, the secret empowerment, the wisdom empowerment and the wisdom vajra empowerment, the wisdom or the absolute word empowerment, like those things. And then each of those empowerments grants us the authority to do certain level of practice. So the vase empowerment enables us to do the generation stage practice, that we can visualize our own body as the deity. And the secret empowerment grants us the authority that we can engage in the recitation, the mantra, like that. And then the wisdom empowerment enables us to engage in the practice of the inner heat yoga, like Tumo, Tendali practice of blazing and melting those essence of bliss and so forth, like that. And then finally, with the absolute word empowerment, then we are granted the authority to meditate upon primordial purity and spontaneous presence, so Chache and Table, like that. So what is happening is, from Guru Rinpoche's heart, blue light comes out, then hits onto you. It's just the play of language here. So, and then finally it says, another blue light shoots out like a shooting star, just like when we see shooting star going and going out. And as soon as it reaches the destination, just kind of goes out tracelessly, like that. It's mentioned like that. And sometimes it is also mentioned by our lamas that indivisible from Guru Rinpoche's body, speech, and mind. There is no separation. And then it hits, all three lights coming all at once, and then striking your body, speech, and mind indivisibly. And at that point, then all the karma of ground is that is where our mental habit, our conceptual habit, the ground where all karma and so forth are founded. This conceptual habit, or this habitual, the karma that is accumulated by our habit, is not in our body, not in our speech, not in our mind, but it is within that basis. So when we say it is not in our mind, because mind is emptiness, mind is like sky. It cannot be a basis for anything, because you try to place this on this air, it will fall down like that. Mind cannot hold any basis. Mind cannot be any basis for to hold anything. But we have this conceptual habit that something kind of is there and something is built on it. So that is called the ground, all ground. It's not the ground of mind. It's called alaya. That ground is imputed. That ground is not there. That ground is just a conceptual imputation. So that is where all habits are formed. So then that karma of our habit, that ground of alaya, which is called that alaya, is purified, and that conceptual obscuration is the hindrance of knowing our own true nature, who we are. And then we don't have any kind of existence. We posit that we think we are existing. We are not one, we think that we are one. And we are constantly, there is no one fixed nature, we are constantly changing, but then we think that we are permanent. And then this nature of ours transcends happiness and so forth, but then we stick into one moment of happiness, thinking that this is happiness and so forth. So those are conceptual obscuration. Anyway, it's based on not recognizing our own true nature. So that is conceptual obscuration. So those are purified. And then you are granted the authority to practice resting in the nature mind, or resting in primordial purity or original purity, and pervasive equality or spontaneous presence, those kind of things. So, and then corresponding to that kind of practice, you can bring forth the attainment, you can bring forth the result of the stages of Vidyadharas called wisdom holders. So the first wisdom holder is called the maturation of karma. So we can end our karma in this life. We can completely purify our karma, that we don't have to hold responsible anymore for karma. That is called maturation of karma, like Milarepa. In Milarepa, his karma is completely purified, that he doesn't have to come back again to be born again as a human, as a sentient being, like that. So that's called maturation. That's called Nyingthig, meaning fully matured, fully karmic karma has all matured. So, and then the next kind of practice is and focused on recitation. So if you engage in recitation, as sound and emptiness and so forth, then you can bring the wisdom holder state of immortality. For those kind of practitioners, there's no death. For the earlier one wisdom holder, they have one death. They have one death. That's they pay off. The karma is all gone. They will demonstrate that they are dying in front of other beings. For them, they have no death, but just they kind of display that their body decomposes or body kind of comes to an end. But for the second kind of wisdom holder, there's no death. That's why it's called wisdom holder of immortality. And the third kind of wisdom holder is called the wisdom holder of Mahamudra. They can demonstrate appearing in deities to themselves, to others, and so forth. Wisdom of Mahamudra is like everything as the manifestations of the mandala, like that, as deities, as mandalas, and so forth. And the fourth one is called the wisdom holder of spontaneous presence. That one is just a rainbow body. It's just like those kind of. So you're giving a concrete answer to your question is that you can visualize either blue light shooting out like a shooting star, or you can also visualize light inseparable from Om Ahum, or all three lights striking at once onto you. That's the traditional way of doing it, and it's not, there's no contradiction in doing either way like that. And that was Stuart's question. I don't think anybody else has the questions.
So Rinpoche, besides what is the meaning of mandala? Besides what we usually think of when you say mandala? Remember the mandala, when you say manifestation of the mandala? Yeah, what do you mean by that?
Mandala is when you transcend the notion of center and the periphery.
Like a reference point?
Yes, a reference point, yes.
And then, okay.
And at that point, then everything becomes a mandala. So wherever you start, there is no center or edge, but everything becomes a mandala. That's the definite mandala. Otherwise, that the mandala that we have has a center and then has a limit like that. That's just a reflective mandala. That absolute mandala transcends that reference of being a center and having an edge like that. So in these days, you have mandala, which very much looks like cluster formation. You know, like you do one dot, and then that dot is surrounded by other dots. Other dots are surrounded further by, so cluster formation like that. It's kind of okay to think in that way, but it doesn't symbolize through that kind of thing. How it goes is this formation, like when we train ourselves in like the Shito, then we have the center Buddha. The center Buddha is surrounded by 4 Buddhas of the east, south, west, and north. And then each of those Buddhas, which are now the retinue Buddhas, are further surrounded by 4 bodhisattvas, 2 males bodhisattvas, 2 female bodhisattvas. The male are on the right and left, the female are in the front and the back, like that. They go like that. So that is one set of the mandala. So now that one, and then I didn't tell you there's the 4 gatekeepers, and then in each 4 gates there are the male and the female gatekeepers, and then within those corridors are the 6 munis, the 6 liberators of the 6 classes. So in this same formation, there's multiple of those, so it just kind of moves in this way. Just like when you look into a small piece of rock, and you look at it, or when you kind of place it under a microscope, and you start to see that it is actually formation of tiny pieces that are compounded, or they are combined together, that it kind of makes a form like that. It's like that. So there is no end to it, how the formation kind of moves in or moves out. So there's no saying that this is the center and that's the edge, because everything has that same formation of the mandala, the formation of that which we are studying right now, like the 48 peaceful deities and the 42 peaceful deities and the 58 wrathful deities, like that. It moves in that way. And so that's the way of how you understand mandala. So mandala is referring to wisdom manifestation in terms of everything as awakened bodies and everything as wisdom. So we say kayas and wisdom. Kayas refers to the embodied aspect. It could be light. It could be light, or it could be form, it could be shape, or anything like that. And then wisdom here is referring to the awareness, or the wisdom intent, or the wisdom realization. And then, of course, those kayas and so forth are not these are not like devoid of wisdom. These kayas themselves are the expression of wisdom.
So it's kind of like form and emptiness, like emptiness expressed into form.
You could say that, yes, this is the luminosity of emptiness. It's like the luminous aspect of emptiness. When we say emptiness, it's not like void. So emptiness means beyond the characteristics of concept, shape, size, color, all of those. and that's luminosity. So, and then we might again think in terms of light. It's not just light. If you think in terms of light, then there would be color and like, you know, like spectrum, light, and so forth. It's beyond that. So it's just wisdom. It's just awakened bodhicitta. It's just the wisdom intent. So it's not just like light. Some people kind of attribute light to it. Some, you know, there's certain degree of it being light. That, but what is the intent of that light? It's awakened wisdom. It's bodhicitta, like that. When you talk about light, then sounds as if it is light is just like inanimate thing like that. But
It's like a field of energy or something. if you talk in scientific term.
yeah, it could be like that. Everything is pervaded by that nature, by that energy, or by the nature, that awakened nature. There's nothing that is not of that nature. Everything is pervaded by that.
Okay.
So in that form, in that way, then you see that that's the mandala, because you cannot say this is the center and then that's the outside, because there's no edge, when there's no edge, then you cannot pinpoint the center. That's the mandala.
I have a question for you, Kempo, if you're done, Rachel.
Yeah.
I last night I just wanted to clear out, like, make sure I'm understanding the way you're using the terms from last night, consciousness and awareness. What I got from the intrinsic awareness that is, you know, beyond characteristics and the primordial wisdom, but consciousness, what I got is associated with when the aggregates are together.
Yes.
Is that correct? That's sort of the self-grasping, illusory. That's how you're using it, and then.
Yes, you got that right. Yes, consciousness is an aggregate. Consciousness is a moment of awareness that are bunched or that are put together. So we could say two moments of consciousness. So relating that this is now and this was before, or this is before, this is the future, like that. That is called consciousness. So that awareness, unrecognized by itself, the brilliance of that awareness is lost because it does not recognize its own nature being that way, and then starts to grasp it being something, just like when we were saying the bodhicitta, you know, mesmerized by the mirror appearance of, you know, the play of the miraculous display, like that, not recognizing it. So consciousness, then what comes first is consciousness. All of those other aggregates, they come way later. So consciousness is actually two moments of awareness, not really two moments of awareness. It's one awareness, which is awareness itself not recognizing, then starts to think, oh, I am looking at this, or I now recognize this. This is how subject object, that duality happens. That is the beginning of, that is now the aggregate of consciousness. Now, in mind, there is no duality as such, like that. In awakened mind, like in awareness, that's why we were trying to use that word awareness.
And that's the Rigpa, right?
Yes, that's Rigpa. Yes.
One thing that's hard is that I wanted to know because when I read different translations, you know, so many people use different terms. So I wanted to really understand so I can kind of know how to discern what's going on, you know.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Related to that, you were saying something last night, and bear in mind I was pretty tired, so I probably got the wrong end of the stick here. That the consciousness doesn't when we die, the consciousness, you know, falls apart as much as the other skandhas do, the other aggregates. I was led to believe that the eighth consciousness, the
Alaya.
Alaya Vijnana, that
Yeah.
does go on to the next life. Does the seventh, the I forget what it's called now. It's the like the imputation of an eye, isn't it? Does that also go on, or does that fall apart?
Yeah, Alaya Vigyan is called the ground consciousness. The ground consciousness is Alaya Vigyan. Alaya is ground. Vigyan means consciousness. And there is one in that one called Yiche. It's the mind consciousness. So on top of what we have, like the sixth consciousness, one is the mind consciousness, other one is the ground consciousness. So those are what consists of the eight different kinds of consciousnesses. So yes, the ground itself is neutral. So the ground does not, they don't impute having any kind of awareness, because Rigpa when going blank is the ground, the alaya. So there is no awareness. It's a unconscious state. It's an unconscious or unaware state, like that. So from there, then starts these consciousness that we were saying, that starts to impute that, oh, I'm feeling something, or I see something, or this must be something, and so forth. And that is called the Vigyan, Alaya Vigyan. That's the ground consciousness. The ground itself is neutral. The ground does not have. The ground is more an unaware state. So at that point, they wouldn't impute any kind of awareness to that one, because Rigpa's awareness is absent there. Rigpa is awareness, but Rigpa is absent there. So that's why it now serves as the ground. And then that ground is actually, that ground, sometimes in some of the teachings, because of poor explanation, then they think that is Dharmakaya, because that has similar nature like Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya is free from elaboration, and that ground is also very much like Dharmakaya, because it does not have any qualities, because it's just neutral there. So, and then in Dzogchen, we have to distinguish these two very clearly, that Alaya is not Dharmakaya. So that becomes the ground of sentient beings. That is not the ground of Buddha. In some of the Dzogchen teachings, like in the Samantha aspiration prayers, it is mentioned, all sentient beings and Buddhas have singular ground, two paths, two fruition, like that. And when we say one ground, it's something that ground is referred to Alaya. That ground is that basis of all being. So, and then they kind of think, oh, that ground is referred to Kunji. And in some of the teachings, there are also like some reference to rest in your basis, rest in your basis, or rest in the basis of all, rest in alaya. Sometimes very, if you were to think, it literally says rest in alaya. But then from the Dzogchen perspective, that's not the right way to rest or settle, because in Dzogchen there are these three kinds of distinction that we need to bring forth in order to understand Dzogchen Chambo. One of those is distinguishing this ground and Dharmakaya. You learn that. Because this 8 ground consciousness are spoken or taught from the mind-only school, which comes very much close to the teachings of the Tantra, because in Tantra we talk about self-cognizing awareness. And in the mind-only school, they also have what is called as the self-illuminating awareness. The mind that recognizes itself and awakens. It's called the self-cognizing awareness, self-knowing awareness, those kind of things. And then in Tantra, we talk about Rigpa, and the Rigpa also kind of thinks it is the self-knowing awareness. So it looks very much similar, kind of. I think there is. I think it's the same thing, but the way how the mind-only school kind of asserts or imputes it, that they say that this is permanent and lasting and so forth. And in the Tantra, you don't hold anything to be one, lasting and so forth. That's the only difference. So when we go to the Bardo, then when we were saying this particular moment of, I was talking about, there are, when you read that book and then it will tell you, because it tells that the person who is deceased, there's a point where they don't have that mind. They don't have any habit at all. So then this basis that's manifesting as the deities, the peaceful deities and wrathful deities, are happening from the basis of their awareness. Basis of their mind, basis of their awareness, like that. What is within the basis?
Z? Z? How do you say it in Tibetan?
Shi.
Ji.
Shi. Shinang is called the play. Shinang is, she is the basis. Nang is what is within the basis must manifest. So the spontaneous mandala, this peaceful mandala is more the spontaneous one. The wrathful mandala is actually the unrecognized aspect of the peaceful mandala, which is more scary and like those kind of things. So just that one I was mentioning, so that kind of thing. But if you don't really understand the intent, then you could use the word consciousness and so forth there, because after some time the consciousness, it comes back, because then in that one, then yes, you could say there is the aggregate of consciousness, because they have all the references of past, present and future, and they also have all the habits, like when you do something that you dislike, they start to feel, like they start to show disgust, to think that they don't like, aversion, and then something they like, they start to fall for it, like attachment and so forth. So I guess at that point, then you could attribute the aggregate of consciousness there.
Okay, thank you.
That is way past the display of the basis. Because this display of the basis, it's like that. It's a moment only. For meditators, it could last longer, but for ordinary people, it's just happening and immediately picks up the next moment. and they are already in their dualistic habit. So in their dualistic habit, you could say, yeah, just like in terms of the mind only school, then you could posit one of those 8 consciousnesses like that. From the Madhyamika point of view, might be slightly different. Madhyamika point of view like that.
So it's best maybe not to study those texts until you kind of like have a good know the difference.
You can study, it's okay. You can study. That's why you need to question, to ask this. Like what we were discussing yesterday and this morning is in the Shedra, you would debate. And then, so like I say that when I die, then I don't take the consciousness, and the other person say, okay, then they will challenge me saying, they try to prove that there is consciousness, and then this discussion would go on. So with reasoning on all of those, not just because I say that, then I have to answer all the questions backed up from the sutras and tantras and all of whatever we have studied. I have to answer in that way. And then when they challenge, they also have to be, and their challenge has to be valid. They have to question, or they have to challenge me through those valid reasoning. Like that.
So Kempala, if you get saying that there is nothing that's permanent and nothing that exists say in the absolute consciousness, how do you avoid falling into nihilism with that?
It has great compassion. It has wisdom. So others, they actually negate that it has even wisdom. It has some kind of awareness. The Rigpa is actually wisdom there. So when they negate that it has any kind of wisdom, which is that awakened intent. So these 3 things, like we say, essence, nature, and great compassion, when that is negated, then you fall into nihilism or that extreme.
So Kempala, in that blackout moment of non-awareness, it only lasts for a moment then, right? Because
Oh no, that blackout moment can last longer. That blackout moment can last longer, but the display of the basis can be very short. Blackout, you can go long. It's like, for those who are in coma, it's like a blackout. But within the coma state, they don't have the display of the basis. So they're unconscious. Then you'd always say, they already monitor the heartbeat and so forth. All of those kind of things might be, pulse and so forth might be there. So you're not clinically dead, but your brain might be dead, or that kind of, that you black out. It's like that one will be for some time. So for dull people, it could be longer. For people who are very dull, and then they say they don't know that they are dead. So then their mind or their consciousness is roaming now. They don't know, and then their habit is still coming back, and they enter their room, they wake up in the morning, brush their teeth, and then go to work and so forth, and talk to their friends and their families and so forth, they do the same thing. But sooner or later, then they start to find that, oh, there's no same reaction, and then they kind of pause the moment thinking that, oh, I'm dead. And then when they know that, then they go into another blackout, another very, it's a tremendous fear, some kind of tremendous fear and so forth. At that moment, then that basis display happens. So there you have awareness. That is not the blackout state, but there is awareness. And then that awareness, whatever is displaying the basis there. There is awareness. That whatever is displaying is the display of that awareness, display of mind, so forth, like that. It's not the display of the dualistic mind. So the mandala that we're practicing is not the display of our conceptual mind. This is a spontaneously present mandala. That's why we are familiarizing in that. Otherwise, if it is a conceptual mandala, then why bother wasting our time doing this kind of practice? So the basis, the display of the basis manifests, and then the Shito mandala, like the peaceful and the wrathful mandala, manifest. But then they have no idea. They don't recognize it, but together it just goes on. It's like it's simultaneously happening, because awareness and the awareness display is happening. Because their awareness has no recognition, then it just passes. Because it's not separate. Awareness is wisdom. The display of the Shito is the wisdom display. They're not separate. But in our habit, the display has been now apprehended as object. That awareness is now grasped as our mind, or the dualistic consciousness. That dualistic awareness, which now becomes the aggregate of consciousness. And that's the difference.
So does that the darkness end up being a stage of meditation as well?
Darkness?
Yeah. So like in deep meditation, is that you go through a stage of darkness, or?
This one, the display of basis is actually happening right now too. The display of basis is happening right now, but we have no way. And then we have different name for that one. We give so many different names. So that's why this is all that phenomena. So this display and that awareness is happening even right now. But because we have very strong habit of daytime experience and nighttime experience and so forth, it's hard to believe that this is the Shito display. But at that time, then it will be more, it will appear not as like this kind of, like I appear like what I think I look like. You see me like how I look like, that you have this idea. But at that point, it transcends all of these shape and colors and so forth. What is the basis display that Samantavadra and Samantavadri, all these Buddhas and so forth, they appear in form of light like that. And then they're very close to what we are doing in the mandala. So if you are used to that, then we will be able to recognize it.
Rinpoche, for people who don't know about the this practice, what would they see? Like what do they say? Like not the deities, but like someone who doesn't know Tibetan Buddhism, who doesn't do this practice.
Yeah, it will happen to them. It will just they will just recognize as light, just recognize that light, and then they will never recognize that light as their own, that innate light being their own. And then just they will grasp like we are looking at light. That's duality. So there's no way of liberating.
So that's why we have to think of everything we see as ourselves, so that
Our own manifestation, our own display like that. Then that's why that child luminosity is entering into the mother luminosity, as last night we were talking. So what we are practicing, Shito Mandala, is now the child luminosity. And when that moment happens, the basis is the mother luminosity, and then we can merge inseparably. Others don't have that way. Yeah, I guess it's hard for others to recognize in that way. Everybody will have this, and it will appear very frightening, terrifying. In terms, it's mentioned like in very penetrating light, very thundering sound, and then very frightening experience. There's so many, it's called sound, light, and this vibration. There is like a radiance or like a penetration. So these three things everybody can relate. Does not need language. Okay, so yeah, just learn more, read that book, and then you'll find out more. Okay, as we go along, then more and more we practice, then we'll understand. Okay.
thank you very much.
Welcome, and then okay, bye. Have a good day. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
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 Bye. Thank you. Ashidalek, I'm just reading the messages. Just kind of wisdom and pardon. The manifestation. Yeah, well, I'll answer your questions tomorrow. Okay. Okay, bye-bye, Thomas.